My name is Ben, otherwise known as Salt on Instagram and wherever you look on the internet. And I was down at Driven Halifax a couple weeks ago, and I decided to film a podcast with a couple of people that stopped by. Here's that podcast. For all of those listening, the guy sitting in front of me is Adrian McPherson, otherwise known as Eastern Legends. We got to chatting right away, so he didn't introduce himself, so this is why I'm speaking to you now.
Me, it's like, as an observer of you, like, this is a natural progression. But it's natural in the sense of, like, I saw how hungry you were over the last several years. I also saw the experience stacking that you've been doing with like, the work. And then, so for me, when you kind of announced that you're doing this, it was like, oh, this makes sense. Ben's continuing to take steps, but not like small steps. Like, you're taking... Oh, a big step.
Yeah, this feels like a big step, and it's interesting because if you asked me a year or two ago, I would never have considered something like this.
Right.
But now, because of what I've been doing, it feels like a natural progression. Yeah. It's still a big jump, but it feels natural.
Yeah, that's for me. I've been on the precipice of this like talking head conundrum that I really find myself in, which is that I feel like my content that I create lacks my personal touch because I do that on purpose.
Right.
I separate myself
art from the artist.
I just separate my art from who I am because I don't want my storytelling to be about me, but I also isolate my content from my voice, which is that like I should be telling people more about how I feel about these things. And so, I've dabbled in narrating over things that I do. Like NDR, I do a little bit of narrating over top of what I do there sometimes. And people don't know who I am there, which is like, again, that's great because I would hate for like, it would be really bad if I walked around today and people were like stopping me like, oh, like you're Eastern Legends or so on and so forth. I get that sometimes, but it's never why I started it. Like I started it because I love taking pictures of cars.
Right.
I would rather my work stand on its own legs, have its own trajectory. And then for me, it's like on my personal side of things, like I used to be much more active like with my personal Instagram. And now it's like, I do take photos still, but I find that I share less, but when I do share, it's like higher quality. Means more to me.
Interesting. Yeah, so, I like that idea.
I just feel like it's also like so Instagram came out in 2011 for me, I think.
Okay.
And I can remember the concept being an extension off of what Facebook was. So when I was
really posting photos,
that's all it was. When I was in grade 12, I heard about Facebook. I didn't even have a cell phone that I was texting people on. I literally used my cell phone to call people. And then in my first university, I got Facebook like that year. 07 is like the first year that it fucking happened. And then after that, when Instagram came around, I was like, oh, it's just kind of like shorter like clips of like what I post on Facebook.
Right.
So I'll just post the most meaningful photo on Instagram.
Right. Yeah. Whereas on Facebook, you post a whole carousel and you just post one.
You'd post like full collections. Like I would post 400 photos from a party. Like literally, okay. I have like these like hidden files on Facebook, and I've recently gone back and looked through it, and it's been like deep, weird, like underage drinking parties that me and my friends used to do. And
that's
I'm like,
hilarious.
It's a cool glimpse back into it, but I'm like, man, I was capturing so much back then, and it was just because I was like,
you're hungry.
I was obsessed with the concept of preserving moments. Like I really like that idea of being able to like, man, I really want to hold on to this.
Right.
And so I think that's the trajectory that I ended up tying back into with Eastern Legends. Is like I was like, man, I really like what I'm doing here. I want to be able to do more of this.
And is that still how you feel when you're capturing cars now?
No, like it's.
So what was that switch?
Yeah. I think the switch came from the experience of doing something repetitively for so long. So mastering something like, and I say mastering, getting very adept at using a tool. So for me, a camera was something that I was very like intimidated by. When I first started taking photos of cars back in 2015, so this is literally my 10-year anniversary of like concerted effort.
Right.
I bought a point and shoot, and I bought a point and shoot because it was easy to get better quality than cell phones at the time.
Right.
And when I took the photo, I didn't edit them. It just came out of the camera looking better. And I was like, oh, I took the easy road. But it was like, it meshed with my like the way I like to capture. Which
and
was
your volume and your style now is it's accentuating a lot of the like the in-camera aesthetic. It's like
For sure.
like for me, your photos never feel like they're over-edited.
So that has been the most concerted effort of my, like, the most attention that I give to my craft now is how do I make it seem like when people see my content, it doesn't feel like it's heavily manipulated and it doesn't feel like it's over exaggerated, because my early stuff that I used to do felt a lot more like graphic novel. Like I really wanted to exaggerate saturation or contrast, or I really wanted things to pop in a way that like I felt like it, like my memories felt like that. And so I was like, when I saw the photos, I'd be like, oh, well, this feels like what it was. Whereas now, like, I guess it's maturity, like when you grow through things, but I really,
kind of scaling that back.
yeah, scaling it back, but also like understanding like we're all like in this format and my format, like the storytelling aspect of it. I want to try and represent something that I don't see necessarily from other people's perspective.
Right.
So when everybody's looking for that voice or that individuality, that's what I'm looking for. Is like I'm looking for when if I see my photo on Facebook because it got stolen by a fucking random account and it pops up randomly to show me,
like you want to know that it's your photo.
I just look at it and I'm like, immediately it hits me like that has like my DNA in it. Like that's what I want.
Interesting DNA. Like that's like I think a lot of photographers, young photographers now, really want to style like to copy somebody, and they want to go. Right. I want to look like Eastern Legends. I want to look like like Daniel Nyago.
Sure.
And so it's they take that, but I think there's so much grit and kind of perseverance in creating your own style. And so the style that you had 10 years ago is a lot different than the style you have now.
Yeah.
But it's a progression.
It's growth like anything else, and growing is not always. You can't take everything with you when you grow. Like if you're like think about like clothing, like you grow out of clothes when you get up. Like so you might like a pair of shoes or whatever you have when you're a kid, but you're not going to keep those with you forever. So there were things, and I use that as an analogy because there were so many things that I loved about the way that I started to take photos of cars because I didn't care that much. I wasn't trying to be super composition heavy or super like attention. I was like, I needed to get all the basic angles because like things that I saw like in magazines was like, oh, you need to have multiple angles of a car.
Right.
And I stick with that to this day. Like I have like, there's 7 or 8 core shots of a car. Like if I'm going to take pictures of a car, there's 7 or 8 shots that I always take.
Right.
Even though they're the most basic, it's like I always take those shots.
But they're basic in name only, I feel like.
Sure.
Like they're like the way that I might take a rear quarter shot and the way that you might take a rear quarter shot.
Right.
It's going to be different. And like your DNA is going to be in yours and mine is going to be in mine. And so like I think it's interesting to see that even though you call it a basic shot, it's still something. Yeah.
Let's reword it because basic is the wrong word. It's a core, like a fundamental shot.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, but
yeah.
I use the term basic. I don't mean it in a sense of like being flippant, like oh, it's basic.
Yeah.
It's like those are the shots that when I look through a set, I'm like, I need to have those because I may end up using a few of them. I won't use all of them because I just feel like it gets repetitive. But it is something that I look at a car and it's like, you know, I glance at something and I know instinctively, like I'm like, oh, there's the body line. I need to be, I'm tall. I need to be lower. Like, so there are some shoots that I've done where I've gone back afterwards and been like, man, like you're tall dumb ass should have just crouched down and this would have been much better as far as framing, as far as composition.
Interesting.
But that's like also something where I look at some of my shots and I'm like, oh, I got like there's pictures that I took when I went to Gumball in 2020,
which I love those photos. I think they're fantastic.
I just went back and looked through them again and I'm like, man, I have so many shots I never shared and I like sharing a little bit of old work. But there were shots that I took there that I'm like, I otherwise would have been too crowded and I wouldn't have been able to frame this if I wasn't standing up taller.
I think like there's one shot that it's in my mind that I remember of you, and it's this bright green, I think Lamborghini.
Sure.
Or some sort of bright green supercar, and you're standing right at the you're standing like right at the top of the car, and there's a bunch of people crowding around. And like you're right. It wouldn't have worked if you were my height. Yeah. But because you're how tall are you?
6'5".
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah.
So like
so it's like an extra 3 inches or 4 inches off of usually average height is around 6 foot.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I feel like I get not upset, but I get conscious of that. Not self-conscious, but conscious of the idea that sometimes the angles that I view cars through, like that still is the way that I see it. When I'm looking at a car, I'm looking at it from a more downward perspective.
Right. Yeah. And so like it's a unique perspective.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that like are my height that might see a car completely different than you.
Yeah. And in the vice versa sense, it's like I look at some style of photography people that I look at, and I'm like, oh, you're just physically at a lower angle on a constant basis. So I'm always like, if I take a cell phone video, I hold my cell phone down in front of my chest.
Right. Okay.
Because I'm like, this aesthetically still is a much better looking angle of this car.
Right.
I don't want to see as much of the roof. I want to see more of the body lines. But yeah, it's like I think about that in the background sometimes, because I know there's like some of my favorite photographers. I'm like, how is this their like general perspective? And I'm like, oh, it's based off of like their physiology, like their way of seeing the world is just a little bit different from mine. Like I see the top of the fridge, most people don't see the top of the fridge. Right?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point though, because I think a lot of people forget so much about that. Like I mean, like I really didn't even clue into that until we talked about it.
Yeah.
Like I would never think about how tall somebody is in the way that like they might shoot a photo, but it totally makes sense.
Like
It's
for me, the only reason I think about it is because my brother and I, like the only person, so my brother shoots as well. The only person I see that often has like an angle that's similar to something that I shoot, that I'm like, oh, that looks familiar, is him, because he's the same size as me, and I'm like,
Right.
oh, right, like
and
that's
you guys are twins, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so he shoots exclusively on film, which is insane to me. But he never shares his work. I'm lucky to see like 3 or 4 photos of his a quarter, because he never shares his work. But he shoots he'll shoot on a given weekend 6 rolls of film.
Wow.
And so he's
that's a lot of film.
it's a lot of film.
Yeah.
And he's really like passionate about it. But for me, it's like, I don't know. I've been very, I wouldn't say abusive, but I've been very free with how I used to shoot. So like 400, 500, 600 photos, and not all unique. You know, maybe I do burst shots, but like I would shoot a lot of stuff sometimes where I'm like, oh, I probably could have just like breathed a little bit and just been a little bit more conscious of what was happening. Whereas my brother that's all he does. My brother will walk around something like this, for instance, all day and take 4 or 5 photos, but they're like the shots that he really wants to get.
Right. Yeah. I think film teaches you that. I think it teaches you patience.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's something with like on a digital camera, you can shoot so much. And it does, and really the only thing that you're filling up is your SD card.
Yeah. Killing your battery. That's
killing your battery, filling up your SD card.
Yeah.
And slowing down and taking that patience and like really figuring out, okay, what shot do I want?
Yeah.
What emotion do I want to capture in this?
Yeah.
Is a big deal. Like I know for me, it's been really nice to really slow down and figure out, okay, what do I want from this shot? How do I go about that? What frame rate do I use? Those are the
Yeah.
the decisions that I have in my head now, and it's really made a big difference.
And when we think about, like, if I think about my creative process, my creative process largely happens in visualization. So when I think about, like, we were talking off camera, and I think about cars that I see that I'd like to take photos of, I visualize the environment and the shots that I want for that car. And
Right.
so that to me, it's like, I think, I don't want to judge myself too harshly, but sometimes I get critical on myself about like, oh, overshooting or overdoing this. But realistically, my process is like figuring out the car, understanding the situation I want to put the car in, and then being able to like actually shoot the vehicle in whatever lighting that might have available in that situation. And so now it's like, I kind of like look backwards and I'm like, yeah, that's the way that I think about this. And so I'm not just kind of like run and gun and like, oh, I'm just hoping for the best. I do put some forethought into some things, but there are other times where I'm like, I've gone away from shoots and been like, I'll look in the background and I'm like, oh, I wish I was up in that angle, or oh. But that's like also another way of like being able to revisit certain locations, because in Halifax I've been shooting for so long now. It's like there are some places where I'm like,
10 years.
Yeah, so
That's
it's like now, So now I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go back to some of these places that I really like to shoot and like meant a lot to me. But now it's like I have maybe a different lens that I can shoot with, or I have a different visualization of like how I can reimagine that environment. And definitely the car like sets the tone usually, but also lighting is a huge thing. Like I contemplate lighting so heavily now because of how many times I've been caught in like the wrong lighting for like the right car, the right place, but wrong lighting, and it's like, man, like now I think about
What's lighting that you really look for?
oh man, like I was a big, and still am, I love golden hour. Like I love that time of day, but what I find is that sometimes it washes the cars out a lot.
Okay.
And so it's not bad, but like you get used to that aesthetic a little bit, and then color balance is a hard thing. Like if I'm
Right.
shooting a red car, I won't shoot it in golden hour anymore.
Okay,
So I
interesting.
had a shoot with a guy out in Truro with his Mark 1 Rabbit back in fall. Bright red car, like fucking beautiful car.
Yeah.
And we shot it right at sunset, and
Yeah.
it made the car look orange. And there was nothing I
Right.
could do to compensate to try and get
Interesting.
it back
Okay.
around. And it was such a beautiful red that I'm like, man, when I was shooting into the sun and the shadow, like the color was great. Shooting with the sun directly on the face of the car, it was all blowing out, and I was like, man. And then after the sunset, like immediately after the sunset, in that blue hour time, that's become my most popular. Like
Okay.
the lighting I like to shoot in the most is blue hour.
Interesting.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So-
was that something that you discovered it in that that environment, or?
Yeah, it's like a series of like shooting cars in harsh lighting. Like I used to think of like sunset hours being soft light, but it can be pretty harsh on some cars. Like white cars, especially another one.
Yeah.
Like shooting a white car in bright light is overexposed. Like really hard to expose for the car and for the background and for everything else that's going on. And so now it's like I contemplate. As I said, I try and think about the environment, like an all-black car, for instance. Like, how do I accent an all-black car? Well, you got to make sure that it's on a lighter surface. So we
Right.
shoot it on concrete instead of pavement. And those are the sort of
Interesting.
like things that I visualize now, where I don't like shooting on concrete normally because it's too bright of a surface.
Okay,
But like if
interesting.
I'm thinking about a black car, I'm like, I need contrast.
Right.
So that's
And a lot
the-
of this stuff is like
Yeah.
it's stuff you built up over the years.
Oh, dude, it's like,
Yeah.
and it's because it's like I'll go and shoot something and then realize afterwards, and I'm like, okay, like, so you adapt, you understand, you apply next time. And so, yeah, like now that I think about cars, and I like if I have someone that reaches out and they want to shoot, I'll immediately, like if I don't know what their car is, I'll ask like, what color is your car? What kind of rims do you have on it? Like, give me the palette, and
Right.
then I can set that palette to the proper like either juxtaposition of like, okay, I'll put it in a really weird scenario, like put a crazy car in like a really like soft setting or something like that.
I think like my favorite example of that is when you shot Dylan Kimber's car and your car
Sure.
in the alleyway.
Yeah,
and,
that
like
was
overgrown.
the Bloomfield Old School that was on Roby Street.
Super cool.
That had been percolating in my head for months of like, this is a place I want to shoot. And I walked through a few times and I'm like, this is such a wildly like attractive environment to me. It spoke so much to like what I remember of being a kid and like walking in Dartmouth along the train tracks and all the graffiti that was there. And this was just like a unkept, rundown, abandoned building. Windows broke out in every part of the fucking place. And it was just, to me, it spoke volumes as a setting.
Right.
And I was like, I shot there just to take pictures of this setting. And then when Dylan and Nolan wanted to set up a shoot, it was immediately, I was like, man, big body car in a
Right.
in a very sort of like urban decay setting. Like
Very,
the
very
contrast just really kind of, I'm so glad that, and so happy that I did that, because now that's all gone. And so
Wow,
that whole
really?
school got torn down. They caught fire, got arson, like burned down, and now that entire scenery is gone. And I'm lucky enough to have preserved that portion of like what existed, because that school was like 80-something years old.
Wow,
And
okay.
and I have personally, it means a lot to me to have those memories, because it's like I matched something that spoke to me as like a scenic spot that was very unique, very different, and now very like hard to get. Like there's nowhere else in the city that you're going to be able to shoot that's
Right.
like that. And we did it with cars that like, yeah, just like there aren't a lot of VIP cars in Halifax. Like
Right.
we don't have a lot of that. And I did it with two guys that I really enjoyed meeting, making friends with, and now it's I have these really, really cool memories from that shoot.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
I really love that shoot, actually.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorites. One of my favorite recent ones that you've done.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's the most important, one of the most important shoots for me, for sure. Apart from like some of the stuff that I've done with my own car, like there's been things like pictures I've taken that I'm like, okay, this is like, I'm very happy that I'm at this point of like understanding my camera equipment to be able to like work with my car in ways that I'm not having to like struggle or figure things out. It's
Right.
like I'm like I actively can like pull my camera out and take photos of what I'm trying to do
Right.
like pretty instantly.
And again, like that takes time. Like that's effort. That's
It's like a lot of grinding. Like the amount of time that and one of the things that I was really grateful for was the time through COVID was probably the most crucial to me, because there was that whole time that all the businesses were closed and I would go out every day, and I didn't know how to use my camera that well, but by the time that things started back up again, I had such a different understanding of how to use the tool of the camera because of the time that I was able to invest. Like every day I would take the dog out and I would go walk around, do street photography, take pictures of stuff. And then like eventually I started like meeting up with the guys when the cars started, well, we never really stopped, but like we would go take pictures of the cars, but it felt like such a slower pace because the world was slowed down.
Right.
Everything was slowed down.
Right.
And so it felt like there was a lot more time, and that helps to be creative, but also to like be able to utilize some of your like in
not to think as much.
yeah,
and-
like you just intuitive. Like it's very intuitive to try and get to oh, I want to learn how to do this with my camera, and it doesn't feel like a big task because I'll go shoot tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes I felt like when I was younger and I picked up my DSLR, I got a Sony A7 II. It just felt like I was like, oh man, when am I ever going to figure this out? Like, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter. You just keep shooting.
Right.
Just keep
right.
shooting.
I think that's a thing that I'm because it's interesting. Like when I first started, I shot 6-7 cars a week.
Sure.
Like I was
Same.
going hard.
Yeah.
It was like because I really loved it, and I still really do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was for me. It was like I get to practice. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Like this is amazing.
Yeah. Like that's the best way to look at it. When people message me or ask me about camera equipment, and they're like, oh, what should I do? And I'm like, listen, like I don't know the first thing that you should do, but I can tell you that. Sorry, I do know the first thing you can do. First thing you can do is just start taking pictures.
Right.
Of
right.
everything. Anything that catches your eye.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then learn like how light works, learn how contrast works, learn how composition, rule of thirds, like
right.
all of the
But
basics.
Yeah, and like everything's a progression.
Yeah.
And so like for me, this is all practice.
Yeah.
Like this is like I'm learning my camera. I just bought a new FX3.
Yep.
It's really
Cool rig.
it's really cool rig. It's
Yeah.
really daunting.
Mhm.
There's a lot of cinema stuff that
Sure.
I'm like I have no idea what this is for. Never really shot shutter angle.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's
Yeah.
like I get to practice and I get to try something new and
That unknown, that excitement spurs creativity, spurs motivation. Like motivation's a really hard thing sometimes, especially for the type of industry that we're in with the car community, because for our winters becomes so difficult to stay motivated. I feel like there are a lot of people that fall off during the winter, and then they come back to it in the spring, and it's like if you haven't shot in 4 or 5 or 6 months, it starts to feel really like you have to work at it to kind of get the juices flowing or whatever.
that's how I felt this year. It's
tough.
hard. Yeah.
And you got to kind of like, I think about it in the sense of like I've been lucky enough to find avenues of like actively staying shooting throughout the winters. But even then, it's like you can only be so creative when you're indoors.
Right.
And so I get excited at this time of year. Like I've been so jazzed up at going to see the cherry blossoms and like getting out and seeing cars come out
Really,
again.
really interesting. Yeah.
And that's been the
the weather turned out perfect for that.
Oh,
shoot.
but
Yeah.
again, I had the luxury of being able to go in the middle of the afternoon to be able to go and shoot at a spot that I wanted to shoot, because otherwise it's like this is the weather that we have to deal with now. And there may be some cherry blossoms left Tuesday, and it may still be good, but like I had the opportunity to go do something, and it took me like 25 minutes. Whereas like in the past, if I had thought about doing that with somebody, it would have been way more daunting because there were so many things I couldn't control.
Right.
Like the variables of like where to park, how to park, if I can get the lighting, am I going to be in the shade? Like, is this going to happen?
And with your car, you can just pop over there, see if it works,
and wait. And also, I'm
Right.
not waiting. And sometimes it's like when you have a booking for somebody that you're shooting a car with, you don't necessarily have the time to burn. Like you can't just sit there and be like, we'll just wait. Because like most people be like, what do you mean just wait? It's like, well, we got to wait until the circumstances are better to shoot. And some people are understanding for that, but it's like most often if you're sitting with somebody or you're going to meet with somebody to do a car shoot, like they're expecting it to kind of have progression, like start, continue, keep going. But some of the most important shoots I've ever had have been like hanging out with friends, buddies of mine, and then spending hours together, just driving around, doing whatever, and creating at a flow and a pace that's like as
Natural.
it happens,
Yeah.
instead of like,
Yeah.
hey, let's like try and set something up and like make sure, like,
and,
hope
and
everything
there's a
works out.
pressure there.
Yeah,
Yeah, which and like it like pressure's good,
sometimes
but
good.
yeah, it's interesting that like that ebb and flow. I think I want to go back to I guess how you started in in photography, and we were talking off camera about magazines and how, like, now I feel like a lot of photographers really they start looking at photos and they start looking at cars through Instagram.
Yeah.
And they see these wild builds, but for somebody like you, the first time you probably saw a show car was through a magazine.
100%.
Yeah.
So like,
what was that like?
Oh well. So I grew up through that. Like my spurring moments were like Fast and the Furious, the first Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, which came out in like '97. Like those are core memories for me as a kid of being like really entertained by the idea of exotic cars or different cars in general. But like a lot of people from my generation, they'll say like Fast and the Furious really was it. It was so different from anything else that I'd ever seen that it made me go and look at the world different, which is like I would go to when my mom would take me to a Chapters, for instance. We would have a Chapters over there. I would go to the magazine section and find like the car magazines, like all sorts of different car magazines, but I was really like into Pass Mag and a bunch of other like OG car magazines. And I would flip through them, and my mom would let me buy them because they were full of half-naked women, and I was like 13 years old, 14 years old. But I was really at that time really more interested in the way that people were building cars at the highest level that was available back then. Because for us here, like we had a car scene. Like I would remember going to car shows when I was probably 14, 15 years old. But they weren't like
Different.
It just wasn't what you were seeing cars coming out of like California, Florida, places like that. And I was like, there was no concept of Japanese market, like Japanese cars. To me, like the ideas were that it was like Honda Civics or Acura RSXs or Celicas or some of the early 2000s cars that were being built like based off of USDM builds.
Okay,
because importing cars didn't become a thing really until like the 2010s. Like that, we didn't start seeing cars from Japan and understanding where the influence for car culture that was happening in movies like Fast and the Furious. Like I never understood when I was a kid that was happening from Japanese car culture. So like Need for Speed Underground 2, I never thought that was all Japanese influence. I always thought it was like, oh, that's what like is happening in North America. Like that's what we're all doing. And so like it made it feel like it was closer to home that way, but it also made it feel like it was more tangible. Whereas like if they had just projected the Japanese market to like in the magazines when I was younger, I think it would have been a little bit more like otherworldly. Whereas it felt like, when you see like, I think about Need for Speed Underground 2 a lot because there's like a place called Bayside in that, and it looked just like parts of Halifax, and I'm like, it felt like I was cruising around home, and I was
That's really cool.
Yeah, and so like it gives you like that ability to understand that your environment that you're spending time in, fascinating about, is something that's also around you. And I think that's really why I've liked to shoot so much scenery around Halifax, is because that was I would spend as many hours as you possibly could shooting or playing Need for Speed or whatever it was, and it was because it was like looked like Halifax.
Yeah, that's just really cool. Yeah. I think it's interesting how we're drawn to kind of place that we know. Yeah, and
familiarity is huge.
Right,
like being able to understand that something isn't just like, I don't know, like you see things in like Monaco. This weekend's the F1. And
oh
it's like,
God, yeah.
How otherworldly does it look? It just looks like something that's not. I don't say not real. Like I understand that it's real, but it's not.
But it's
accessible.
not tangible. Yeah,
it's not accessible.
Yeah.
Whereas like you see stuff like sometimes like some of my favorite shoots that I see from my favorite photographer Larry Chen. Like he'll shoot stuff that I'm like, I have the access to settings that are familiar to this, and then I have cars that are also familiar to this, and so it's like you have a bit of that, like we talked about imitation earlier, like imitation being a really sincere form of flattery, but for me it's like when I think about the type of content I want to create, I have access to the environment to also create that content.
Yeah, and I think Larry Chen is like a great that you brought him up. I think he's one of the people that I look up to in the car photography world. He's one of the most, because he's doing what I want to do. Sure. But he's doing it on like a global scale.
And doing it at a pace that doesn't ever seem like he's fevered or rushed.
No.
He always seems like he's very much enjoying the process. Whereas like you see some people that are just overworking themselves, and it becomes like apparent that they're not really enjoying everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Like you see it on YouTube sometimes. People make content and you're like, man, this guy looks like he's run down, like really beat out from what he's trying to keep up with the machine.
And it's hard. Like I think like you kind of segued into my next point perfectly.
Yeah.
But Instagram, I think, like when you started, and we talked about this, like it was really you shared one photo, you shared the most meaningful photo.
That's right.
And now
carousels weren't a thing, videos weren't a thing.
And now like I post 2 or 3 videos a week.
Sure.
And I post a set, like a couple sets a week. Like the speed, the
quantity,
the quantity,
and also like the expectation on quality, like
right, it's huge,
it's massive. And I think that largely those expectations on quality, for instance, are set on ourselves. Like there aren't people like, I don't think there's people like looking at my Instagram sometimes like expecting it always to be top notch, but like you also want to, like, I feel like it's a professional thing. Like it's like I have the ability, so
why not?
Why not?
Yeah. And it's interesting to like you're kind of at this level. Okay, well now how do you maintain it?
Yeah.
And like I do like the like I think it is very apparent when people don't love what they're doing.
Oh man.
I think
It's like you see the disconnect in the copy of their comments and the copy of whatever they're doing, but also in the style of their shooting. Like you can just see it. But I understand it because burnout, like for anybody, is a real thing. So if you're somebody that's like a creator that spent the last 5 years or 6 years having tremendous success early on, and then it's like waning, like it must be very difficult to try and like reinvent yourself, to try and fit back into the idea of what your followers want versus the ideas of what you want, and like trying to force yourself into this mold almost. Yeah.
I think myself, like I'm a very different creator than I was 3 years ago, 5 years
100%.
ago. And it's
not afraid to continue to keep growing in directions that is not necessarily what people that started following you want from you.
Yeah, like I started as a vlogger.
Sure.
That was my thing. Like I still
remember
do.
That, yeah.
Yeah, like
like POV stuff and like walking around. Yeah.
And like that stuff was neat, but it was, and like I still do
but
that.
It was you at that time,
right?
Because
and
that's that like time that you're growing, and you're like, how do I do more of this? Oh, okay, like I'll just figure it out as I do it. Right?
Yeah, and then now this is the natural progression.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like I've in growing, I think like I've looked up to people like you and Shafi and Dan and Sam Kelter and people who were emulated or like were doing what I wanted to do and really shooting the cars that I wanted to shoot and really being the people that I wanted to be.
Right.
And now that I get to sit at a table across from you and chat about creative process, and it's humbling for me to be at this table with you.
Dude, it's humbling for me. I appreciate your sentiment, but it's reciprocal. Like I will tell you that very much in the sense of like when we think about say like the cars that I shoot or the first, and we've talked about this in past years. The cars that I shoot are representations of the relationships that I want.
Right.
So it means that if I'm very interested in a car, I have to also be interested in the person that's either created it or built it or owns it or whatever.
Right.
Because that passion has to make sense for me to want to be able to create with that person. Because if someone has a car, like shooting exotics and hypercars or supercars or whatever, for the most part, is not exhilarating.
No.
It's not entertaining because it's like people aren't...
Like you kind of just bought a car.
Yeah, you buy it, and I don't say that in a sense. It's just not as exhilarating as somebody that I've watched build a car for years, and then all of a sudden it's like they've reached a point where it's like, oh my god, like the car is
this is the
fully
finish.
Formed.
It's
all of the personality
it feels done.
is exuding. Yeah, exactly. Whereas there are some people that get cars that I'm like extremely excited and happy for because it's like you hit this echelon and you've reached this goal. But for the most part, I'm very, very much interested in the relationship side of it. And I think that's maybe something that people don't see on social media is like when some of the most important shoots I've ever had with some of the coolest cars I've ever shot have always been with people that mean a lot to me now. And the person that I wanted to meet was just an extension of their vehicle, like that, and vice versa. Their vehicle is just an extension of them. Yeah. And that's when it feels the most organic.
That's an interesting point. I think a lot of people outside the car scene see these cars as being kind of exuberant and showy and whatever, but a lot of this culture is I mean like I'm looking behind me or looking in front of me, and Mitch bought this car and he put the wheels on it that he liked.
Sure.
And he had a Mazda 3 before, and but he wanted a Lexus.
Right.
And he bought this, and it's pretty wicked.
Right.
But it's like cars are an extension of yourself. Like
sure.
it's like your R30 or your GTR is, yeah, it's an R33.
R33.
Yeah. It feels very much like a car that you would buy, a car that you've built.
And honestly, it's so every time something like this comes up about my car, what I would say is that I wish people could see the tapestry of people that have made that car feel like my car.
Right. Because it's not just you.
It's not just me. Like Greg O'Neill, he is I would never call him my mechanic, but he is the fucking genius that helps to make the car work physically and functionally. And
Right.
Dan Goodine, who owns Focus Motorsports, the two of them, like the reason that became an accessible thing for me to even take on was because these two guys that I had a relationship with that helped me understand the complexity of the mechanical side of it in a way that doesn't feel like it's overwhelming. Because
Right.
if I didn't have those guys to rely on for the car, I wouldn't be able to drive it. Like it would just feel so scary to drive. But then it's like, you know, Paul, for instance, Paul from YST, that our relationship, our friendship is the only reason that I even have that car. And it's like, so that friendship was the gateway into an opportunity which otherwise never would have presented itself in a feasible way for somebody like myself to be able to get a car like that. And so that's like, when I look at the car, I see Paul, I see Dan, I see Greg, I see Kate and the team at YST that painted it. I mean, the things that have happened.
That's a gorgeous paint.
Oh, it's incredible. And the things that have happened and the ways that it's happened, it's like, as I said before, I look at it as a tapestry of like this community of people that I'm a part of now, who I used to like feel like I was on the outside of a little bit because I was an observer. I wasn't a camera guy, like I was a photographer.
Yeah.
I had really good, strong friendships, but now having the car,
You're in the,
I feel like
yeah.
I'm not like, I don't feel like I was outside of the club, but I feel like I'm taking part. Like I'm engaging actively in all of the aspects of the culture that I want to be engaging in. And the car to me is it's a representation of everything I've always been passionate about, including the people that I care about.
Yeah.
And that's why like I'm very proud of the car, because it's not just my car, in my opinion. It's like the people that have helped me get this car to this spot, and the people that will continue to help me get this car to the places that I want to take it. Yeah. So like that's me on that for sure. Like I'm very like I think
it's very apparent that you like through your Instagram and through seeing the way that you share your car.
Right.
I think it's been very clear for me that it's not just you behind this.
Yeah.
It is Dan, it is Greg, it is Josh. It's all these people that have helped
Josh,
you
especially.
build your car.
Yeah.
I remember when you posted that your car had been, like the full car had been painted.
Yeah.
And you were shocked.
Oh,
and
blown
it
away.
was and
because I was expecting the front bumper to be done. You know, I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna have one color car instead of having a white bumper.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I think like for you like like hearing about that and seeing your excitement and like your passion for this car was really inspiring.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it was something that I still feel like I'm still trying to exercise all of the ways that I want to be grateful for that. But it really comes down to how do I show up for them in the same ways that they've showed up for me. And that's the importance of the reality of what a community is an understanding that, so if you're 15, 16 years old and you've grown into this world of social media, and then all of a sudden you see something like a guy like me, for instance, who's been a photographer for the last 10 years, and then all of a sudden he gets a GTR. It's like, that is not, there's no direct correlations that you can relate there, the thinking that like, one, there's money in shooting cars to be able to afford a GTR.
Right.
It's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of community of people that help make those dreams realities. And so it's not just about like having that like one day mentality, it's understanding that your dreams largely never happen in a vacuum.
No.
You need the people around you to lift you up as much as you're there to lift them up. So
I mean, like we're sitting here and like we're chatting, and this is not. I didn't do this. This podcast setup. Alex Samuel helped me.
Right.
I've like Mark Sato at Driven gave me this opportunity to have a booth.
Sure.
So yeah, like nothing. You're right. You're like nothing happens in a vacuum.
No, there's zero things. No success. No success on any scale happens in a vacuum.
Right.
It's always off of the support or the backs of other people.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And no man is an island.
No.
I think it's
and that's it becomes isolating if you do think in the sense of like, oh, I'll just I'll keep doing it myself. Like I can push through, persevere.
And it's like I think that leads to a lot of burnout too, because if you bear the weight of everything on your back, then you're gonna break down at some point.
100%. And then when you break down, you don't have people to help you fix.
Right.
And, like get your car towed or whatever.
Yeah.
But So I very grateful to be able to sit down and have a chat with you, dude. Like this is super cool. I've been fortunate enough to be on a podcast or two in the past, but I love that this is happening here at the first show of the season here in Halifax. So.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge to get it here in a show, but
it's very cool. Like the lighting, the setup, like the stuff that's happening all around us. Like I think this is a really cool vibe. So
I have one more question, one more thing, and then we'll kind of kick it off. But you're kind of one of the better people to ask this, but. I've always been struggling with the role of a photographer in the community, like in a car community, because I think it's interesting, like somebody that builds a car, like buys the wheels for it, like it's their car, like they have a role in this car community, and the photographer also has this role, but it's so much different. And for me, it's I guess like you mentioned as like you felt a little bit like an observer.
Sure. But not. That's not always a bad thing.
No. I think it's this really, really nice. For me, it's always been this really nice ability to be able to capture those moments that all of your friends they're sitting in the garage and they're wrenching on they're wrenching on the car for the 15th time this month because this one thing won't work, but everybody's there trying. And you can capture that moment and really kind of solidify it in time, or you have a friend that like you said put so much time and effort into this car, and you get to be the one to really show off their work, their handiwork.
That's like largely everything that I think about. So it's like you're so. I don't know if you've ever heard this. Oh, you must be nice, or you must.
Oh, I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time.
So lucky, and it's like preparation meets opportunity. If you put yourself in positions to, one, be socially adept enough to recognize how to have a conversation with somebody in a polite, constructive, and respectful way, you will develop your own luck, which is that opportunities develop from those sorts of situations. But for me, I don't get a responsibility put onto me, but I task myself with the responsibility of saying, I want to showcase this in a way that represents equally the amount of effort and input that this person's put into their car. And so it's like, to me, it's like that's the one pursuit that helps me want to be better, is that it's like, man, like other people are always trying to be better in so many different ways. You go to the gym, you go, you're dieting, you're sleeping, your relationships, whatever it might be. It's like, yeah, so skill is a thing that you work at forever.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Right.
So anybody that says that they're like the best or the master at something, it's like, dude, like, no, you are not. Like,
and I think it's damaging in a sense to be like, oh, I'm the best at this. And like I think like in my line of work, I've had like, I'm really fortunate to be so like I work as a journalist at CBC in Fredericton, and there's people on my team that have won multiple awards, and they come to me for advice sometimes. Because I know a thing that they might not know, but I can also then come to them and go, okay, well, how do I do this thing?
Right.
And it's that openness to
humility and being humble, man. Like it carries so far when you can admit that you don't know something, or that you're like, another thing that's really hard to do sometimes is like offering unsolicited help to people that may not be interested in getting. So it's like knowing when not to talk or say things to people. It's like, let people figure things out, one. Or two, it's like, yeah, just try and exercise a bit of humility. If someone asks you a question, don't, like, if you think that they should know it, like, especially, don't laugh at them or be like judgmental. It's like, no, you think about the concepts that they're trying to express, and then answer it in a human way. And but yeah, I going back to that like idea of like, oh, must be so nice or like lucky. It's like, I get it. I get that mindset if you've never been in a position to like prepare yourself in a way to have an opportunity. If you've never seen that happen, then yeah, it does look like it's luck, or it looks like it's just like, man, this guy, like, oh, geez, always with this. And it's like lifestyle and setup and the way that you you carry yourself through your relationships will lead to opportunities every time.
I think like also, I think when people say that must be nice or the like you're so lucky to, I think they discredit the amount of effort that it's taken to get to that point.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely sometimes very disrespectful. Hearing the term "you're so lucky" is like, well, in what regard? Like, you know, I think a lot of people deal with things that other people have no clue about. So it's like lucky in like the sense of like, okay, so this is going well, but then something else might get well. So someone has a problem with their health, or someone has a problem with their home life, or they're getting a divorce, or whatever's happening. It's like, yeah. So other things in their life that in the perceived lexicon of like social media may be cool, but for most part it's like, yeah, it's not always it's very rarely the full story, if even a percent of their story, right?
And so it's such a small snapshot in somebody's life, and usually, I mean, social media is a projection of your best life. So I know for
ideally,
me, and like if it it's interesting. I think social media and I think we're finally now kind of getting back into like a culture of trying. And
I see that as well.
And I think for a long time, for at least 3 or 4 years, people were. I think we had tall poppy syndrome.
For sure.
Where if you were seen as trying too hard, oh, you're cringe, or you're whatever.
Too much effort.
But then on the flip side, it's that must be so nice or whatever. And I think, I mean, like we're sitting here, like, in the middle of hundreds of really, really fantastic cars that people have poured their blood, sweat, and tears into. I would be happy to own any one of these. But it's then going up to some random car person and going, oh, well, it must be so nice to own that. Again, like, it discredits like the amount of effort that they've spent building their car.
And then it's like you have these instances of the variety of vehicles that are here, like this Toyota truck that's over to your right. It's like
very cool.
That's a cool story. Like what people be like, why is that here? It's like, what do you mean? Like, do you know about? Did you have 2 seconds to think about why that might be here?
Right.
And then thinking about it. And I overheard the story just from. I was literally just hearing it as an observer, and I'm like, man, that's fucking cool. Sat in the woods for 40 years.
Wow.
Sat with a head off of it.
No way.
And then like they just bolted it all back together, did a bit of work, and it fired back up, and it runs on the original.
Gotta love Toyota.
I know.
Yeah. But yeah, like stuff like that. Like I think it's really awesome. It's really awesome to be able to figure out kind of that story, and I think to me it's always been if you, the more you know about somebody, the more understanding you are of their situation. But also, I think so many of these cars, people post a photo of them, but they don't. But they don't know the owner. So there's a 370 right behind you. That blue one came from Newfoundland. I'd love to talk to that guy because I'd love to know, why the hell would you come from Newfoundland
what's going
to
on?
come here? Like why? Like why would you?
Because it means a lot, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And so it's like that's a huge trek to be able to come down here, take the ferry, do everything you need
It's
to do.
huge.
It's
a lot of money. It's a lot of time.
But I think that I like the idea that curiosity leads to context, and that's. I think a lot of people miss context. So they see things on the internet. They see the way that the world looks, but they miss all the context. It's like some of the most like crazy photos that I've ever seen. I'm sure if you looked at it from the opposite perspective, it's like, yeah, weird. It doesn't look like that's where that was taken, but that's the context of the situation.
Right.
But yeah, I think that the curiosity portion of what, or at least the trajectory of people's curiosity has changed a lot. And so for me, it's like I'm much more concerned about the human element of car culture than I am about the cars of car culture. And that's the easiest way to put it. It's like the human element is the only reason that we even sit here and have a conversation. Like, that's the only reason.
It's the most interesting part.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Ben.
Well, thanks so much.
Hey, dude. Appreciate it. This is great.
All right. Wow. All right.